Hello, good morning, and welcome to all of you. Today I am going to teach you the topic ocular injuries, also known as ocular trauma. In this topic, we will discuss different kind of injuries to the eye and their management. So, let's begin the lecture. Ocular trauma. First, coming to classification of ocular injuries. These are mechanical injuries, chemical injuries, injuries due to physical agents, and direct ocular trauma. So first, coming to mechanical injuries. Mechanical injuries to the eyes are of following types. Extraocular foreign bodies, blunt trauma, penetrating and perforating injuries, penetrating injuries with retained intraocular foreign bodies. So these are mechanical injuries. Then second is chemical injuries. These may be alkali injuries, acid injuries, and tear gas. Among these, alkali injuries are most dangerous to the eye, the details of which we will discuss later in this lecture. Then injuries to physical agents. These include thermal injuries, electrical injuries, radiational injuries. Then mechanical injuries of the eye can be classified or can be understood through this table. These are two mechanical injuries to the eye are two types: closed globe injury and open globe injury. Closed globe injury are further divided into contusion, superficial foreign body, and lamellar laceration. Open globe injury include laceration, that is a cut type of injury, then rupture, which may be rupture of the globe. Laceration injuries are further divided into penetrating injuries, perforating injuries, and intraocular foreign bodies. Then extraocular foreign bodies. Coming to extraocular foreign bodies, common regions of lodge of extraocular foreign bodies are conjunctiva. It may be present in the sulcus subtarsalis. Sulcus subtarsalis is a region 1 to 2 millimeter above the lid margin on the conjunctiva side. Fornix or vulvar conjunctiva. So these are common sites for lodging of intraocular foreign bodies in the conjunctiva. Second is cornea. In cornea, it is usually lodges in epithelium, superficial stroma or early in deep stroma. So two layers are involved: epithelium and stroma of the cornea. And coming to types of extraocular foreign bodies, these may be particles of iron, coal, emery, paddies, husk, small insects, strings of insects, wood, dust particles, sand, glass, and steel. Clinical features of extraocular foreign bodies include symptoms which are immediate discomfort, profuse watering and redness, pain and photophobia, and defective vision. And the signs include marked blepharospasm and conjunctival congestion. Oblique illumination is useful for localization of conjunctival or corneal foreign bodies. So oblique illumination is necessary for localization of the foreign body. Then foreign body in upper fornix is discovered by double eversion of the upper eyelid. So double eversion of the upper eyelid is required to locate the foreign body in upper fornix. Then slit lamp examination done after fluorescein staining is best method to locate corneal foreign body. So coming to treatment, eye should not be rubbed, otherwise the foreign body will penetrate the deeper tissues. Then eye should be washed with plenty of clean water. When lying in conjunctival fornix, condylar sulcus subtarsalis, the foreign body may be removed with a clean handkerchief or with a staff stick. Foreign body present in the bulbar conjunctiva should be removed with hypodermic needle after administration of local anesthesia. When corneal foreign body is gently removed with foreign body spot after installation of topical anesthesia. Other method is if the foreign body is penetrated in the superficial layer of cornea, it is gently lifted with the hypodermic needle. A magnetic foreign body is removed with handheld magnet. After removal of the foreign body, the treatment is done on the lines of cornea also, which we have already studied. So complications of foreign body are an infected foreign body can cause acute bacterial conjunctivitis. Retained corneal foreign body may lead to corneal ulcer, resulting in the formation of corneal opacity. RNA emery particles embedded in the cornea may lead to pigmentation and opacity of the cornea. Then coming to prophylaxis, special protective glasses should be advised to agricultural and industrial workers. Persons riding the two-wheeler should be advised to wear plain and tinted glasses. Safety guards may be fitted on the machines. Use of tools with overhanging margin should be banned. High healthcare education should be imparted to the workers. Then coming to next type of injury, that is blunt trauma. Contusional injuries are caused by blunt trauma, which are a type of bruise, which may vary from simple subconjunctival hemorrhage to an extensive rupture of the globe. Mechanism of blunt trauma of injury is first direct impact on the globe. In this case, maximum damage occurs at point where the blow is received. Second is compression wave force. It is transmitted in all directions through the fluid contents and causes considerable damage. Then third is reflected compression wave force are transmitted towards the posterior pole and may cause severe damage. Next, Raymond, compression wave force. The compression wave force is removed back anteriorly after striking the posterior wall. Damage is caused to the structures as a result of forward pull. So this forward pull of the structures takes place. The indirect Force due to striking of the globe against the bony bars of the orbit. Ocular damages or caused. So lesions caused by blunt trauma include and can be classified as closed globe injury, rupture of the globe, extraocular lesions. First coming to closed globe injury. In cornea, it causes simple abrasions and recurrent keratoelacia, that is recurrent corneal erosions. Finger-nail trauma is the commonest cause of recurrent keratoelacia. And coming to its management, removing loosely attached epithelium with debridement and application of padded bandage for 48 hours. The rupture of the decimus membrane, blood staining of the cornea and corneal opacity occur due to closed globe injury. In sclera, partial thickness wounds, that is lamellar scleral laceration occur. In the anterior chamber hypemium, collection of exudates, collapse of the anterior chamber may occur. In case of iris, iridolysis, that is detachment iris from its hoop at the ciliary body, traumatic meiosis, traumatic mydrosis, also known as iridoplasia, antiflexion or retroflexion of the iris, traumatic aniridia, that is partial or complete loss of iris, traumatic iridocyclitis, then post-traumatic iris atrophy may take place. Coming to treatment, administration of antibiotics, steroids and atropine. Atropine is contraindicated in presence of rupture of pupillary margin and subluxation of lens. Then, so in case of ciliary body, angular recession may take place, which is a condition of tear of the circular medial muscle fibers of the ciliary body. Then, in crystalline sebaceous ring, which is a circular ring of brown pigment present on the anterior capsule. Subluxation or dislocation of the lens may take place, traumatic abruption of the lens, concussion cataract, that is imbibition of aqueous is the main cause. Early rosette cataract is the most typical form of this cataract. That is concussion type of cataract. Then vitreous involvement will lead to liquefaction, which is the commonest change, vitreous detachment, vitreous hemorrhage, vitreous herniation, that is subluxation and dislocation of lens may cause vitreous herniation in the anterior chamber. Then in choroidal rupture, choroidal hemorrhage or choroidal detachment may occur. In case of retinal hemorrhages, retinal tears, that is contusional injury in the peripheral region is the commonest cause. These usually occur in patients suffering from myopia or senile degenerations. Then retinal detachment, commotio retini, macular changes, which include macular edema, pigmentary degeneration, macular cysts, which rupture to form macular hole. Then in case of IOP, traumatic hypotony may take place. Damage to the ciliary body may lead to this condition. Then traumatic glaucoma. Then refractive changes which will occur is myopia may occur after ciliary spasm, anterior shift of lens or jonular rupture. Damage to the ciliary body may cause hypermetropia, or loss of accommodation. So both myopia or hypermetropia can occur with this type of injury. The next is rupture of the globe. Uh, it is full thickness wound of the eye wall caused by a blunt object. It may occur following direct injury at the site or to compression wave force. You know what is compression wave force? We have discussed it earlier. And coming to its management, enucleation should be done in case globe is badly ruptured. In less severe cases, repair should be undertaken under general anesthesia. The extraocular lesions are the third type of injury to the eye. So blunt trauma may cause lesions of the conjunctiva, eyelids, lacrimal apparatus, or orbital lesions. So this table shows effects of blunt trauma on the eyeball structures, ocular structure, and effect of the blunt trauma. In cornea, it may cause corneal abrasion, superficial and deep opacity, recurrent erosions, blood staining. In conjunctiva, some conjunctival hemorrhage may occur. In anterior chamber and its angle, acrimia, secondary glaucoma and annular recession may occur. In case of pupil, iris and ciliary body miosis, mydriasis, acrimia, iris tear, aniridia, arodialysis, spasm of accommodation, sacral dialysis may occur. In case of lens vosseous ring, traumatic cataract, subluxation or dislocation may occur. In case of vitreous detachment, opacity and hemorrhage may occur. In retina, commutative retinae, macular hole, macular degeneration, retinal breaks, retinal detachment, hemorrhage, peripheral retinal degeneration, proliferative retinopathy may occur. In the case of choroidal rupture, hemorrhage or choroidal detachment. In case of sclera, rupture of near the scleral canal. In case of optic nerve, optic atrophy or hemorrhage, orbit, anophthalmos or proptosis. In case of lacrimal apparatus, canaliculi, tear may occur. Then coming to penetrating and perforating injuries of the eye. First, penetrating injury. Presence of full thickness break or wound of the eye wall caused by a sharp object. Next is perforating injury. Lower full thickness wound, one nucleus and one exit in the eye wall caused by a sharp objects is known by the name of perforating injury. The effects of penetrating perforating injury. First, mechanical effects. Second, introduction of infection. And third is sympathetic ophthalmitis. Coming to mechanical effects, it may cause wounds of different section of the eye wall as described here. First, conjunctiva, subconjunctival hemorrhage may occur. Then cornea, in case of cornea uncompleted wounds, these wounds are not associated with intraocular contents prolapse. Its treatment include installation of atropine and antibiotic ointments and application of pad and bandage. If the wound is large, stitching should be done. Then complicated wounds of the cornea. These wounds are associated with iris prolapse, lens or vitreous matter. And treatment include when associated with iris prolapse, these wounds should be sutured after abscising the lens iris. Lancectomy or vitrectomy should be performed when associated with the lens or vitreous loss, along with repair of the wound. Then in case of sclera, the sclera wound should be assessed after reflection of the conjunctiva. Scleral wounds are usually associated with corneal wounds. If corneoscleral tear is present, first tissue should be applied at the limbus. Then coming to lens, sharp objects perforate the lens capsule due to injury of aqueous rosette-shaped lenticular opacity is produced. Large wound results into complete opacity of the lens. So sharp objects leads to complete opacity of the lens. Extensive rupture of the lens may occur with loss of vitreous, then tear injuries. In case eye is severely wounded and with no useful vision can be preserved, excision of the eye should be done. Then coming to introduction of infection, pathogenic organisms may enter the eye following perforating injury and may cause varying degree of damage depending upon host defense mechanism and virulence of the pathogenic organisms. Then sympathetic ophthalmitis, which is most dangerous complication of perforating injury. Fortunately, it is of rare occurrence. Then coming to diagnostic signs of penetrating ocular injuries, which is discussed in the table. Here, structure and ocular signs due to penetrating injuries are described. In case of orbit, perforation, cornea and retina, corneal tear opacity may present, scleral tear, exposed choroid, retina and vitreous. Anterior chamber and its lens is accurate or shallow. Foreign body may be visible directly or on colonoscopy. In case of iris sole is present. In OP, in case of low penetrating injury, low blood pressure is present. In vitreous, opaque plaque in the vitreous or vitreous hemorrhage. In retina, retinal tear or hemorrhage is present. Then coming to intraocular foreign bodies. Foreign bodies which cause penetrating injuries to the eye include chips of iron and steel, glass, stone, wood, PQs, lead pellet, aluminium, plastic, etc. So these are penetrating injuries. Substances leading to lodging of the foreign body. Then greater damage occur due to retention of these foreign bodies depending upon their size and velocity. Foreign bodies larger than 2 mm in size cause extensive damage. Then modes of damage. First is mechanical effects. After pushing the cornea or sclera, a foreign body may be retained in the anterior chamber, where it sinks at the bottom, or a small foreign body may be concealed in the angle of anterior chamber. So, foreign body may sink at the bottom, or may be concealed in the anterior chamber at its angle. It may get lodged on the iris or pass into the lens or to the vitreous. It may settle down in the retina finally. Sometimes foreign body may push the eyeball coats and strain the orbital tissue. This condition is called double perforation. So this table shows interest of intraocular foreign body in the vitreous through different routes. So there are 4 different routes. First is center of cornea. From here the foreign body goes to pupil, then lens and vitreous cavity. Second is paracentral cornea. From here foreign body, intraocular foreign body goes to iris and integrates and goes to lens and then to vitreous cavity. Then in case of peripheral cornea, foreign body enters the iris. From there, it travels to zonules and ultimately to vitreous cavity. And fourth case, sclera is penetrated by the foreign body and enter into the choroid. From choroid, it goes to retina and finally to vitreous cavity. Then infection caused by foreign body, intraocular foreign body. Entrance of organic foreign bodies such as stones and wood spicules into the eye lead to the infection. The metallic foreign bodies are usually sterile due to heat generated on their emission and high velocity. Once an infection sets in, endophthalmitis or panophthalmitis may occur, resulting in loss of vision. Now, specific reaction of the intraocular foreign bodies. Here, inert substances such as plastic, glass, porcelain, gold, silver, and platinum produces no reaction. Lead and aluminum particles cause local irritating reaction, leading to encapsulation of the foreign body. Then local suppression is caused by zinc, nickel, pure copper, and mercury particles. And most importantly, the fourth point, that is, specific reactions are produced by iron and copper iodides, known as hydrolysis galvani or chalcosis, respectively. Then organic foreign bodies such as wood and other vegetative materials produce proliferative reaction characterized by formation of germ cells. Then management of intraocular foreign body. First is diagnosis. It is most important part involved in the management of intraocular foreign body. And it includes careful history, ocular examination, and localization of intraocular foreign body. Localization of intraocular foreign body can be done through following methods. First is radiographic localization through Limburger method, then specialized radiographic techniques. Second is ultrasonographic localization, and third is CT scan. And then treatment, it includes removal of intraocular foreign body should be done always. However, exception is when the intraocular foreign body is inert or sterile. Removal is also contraindicated when risk is involved in it and may destroy sight. Then coming to reaction of iron, known by the name of Sadler-Wilbite. Here, its details are discussed. It refers to chronic irreversible degenerative changes of the ocular tissue caused by retained intraocular foreign body. Due to current of rest, the iron particles undergo electrolytic dissociation and its ions are disseminated through the eye. Degenerative changes are produced as a result of combining of the iron particles with intracellular proteins. Epithelial structures of the eye are most affected. This clinical presentation include rusty deposition of iron on the anterior epithelium and capsule of lens. Cataractous changes may occur in the lens. Heterochromia, iridium or heterochromia iridis is present. Degenerative changes of retina is linked to retinitis pigmentosa may be present. And coming to its prognosis, it is poor. Then another specific type of intraocular foreign body which cause great damage is chalcosis. It is the condition in which copper alloys produce specific changes in the eye. Electrolytic dissociation of copper ions from alloy occurs and is deposited under the membrane structure of the eye. They do not undergo chemical reaction with the proteins of the cells and therefore do not produce degenerative changes. So degenerative changes are not produced by copper alloy, but they undergo electrolytic dissociation. And in this case, clinical presentation, case of featuring in the peripheral part of the cement membrane, a gold brown ring is formed due to deposition of copper. Then it may cause sunflower cataract, which is a brilliant golden greenish in the form of petals of sunflower is produced. Then in case of retina, retinal changes with golden plaques occur. And prognosis, it is good in this case. Then coming to sympathetic ophthalmitis, it is bilateral granulomatous panuveitis that usually occur after injury to one eye known as exciting eye, followed by development of uveitis in the fellow eye known as sympathetic eye. So in this first one eye is injured, which leads to development of uveitis in the second eye, which is known as sympathizing eye. Incidence of disease has decreased significantly due to microsurgical techniques or wound repair use of potent corticosteroids. So coming to its etiology, it always occurs following perforating injury and common in ciliary region, also called danger zone. Second, retained intraocular foreign body is usually responsible for this condition. Third, wounds with incarceration of iris of radial lens capsule are dangerous. Children are commonly affected. It does not occur when actual suppression develops in the eye, which is injured. Then hypersensitivity reaction of the UV effect is also considered the etiological factor. When coming to its pathology, granulomatous uveitis is a characteristic pathological feature marked by infiltration of lymphocyte eosinophils, epithelioid cells, plasma cells, nutrient cells scattered throughout the uveal tract. Taylor-Fox nodules are formed as a result of proliferation of pigment epithelium of the iris and ciliary body with the tissue invasion by lymphocytes and epithelioid cells. Retina shows perivascular and cellular infiltration. Then coming to clinical features, in case of exciting eye, injured eye shows clinical feature of plastic uveitis characterized by lacrimation, tenderness, and ciliary condition. Keratic precipitates may be present on the back of cornea, and it is a dangerous. In case of sympathizing eye, clinical features can be divided into following stages. First is incipient stage, and second is established stage. In case of incipient stage, earlier symptoms are photophobia and transient inability to distinguish between the objects due to decreasing accommodation. Signs include mild ciliary congestion, few keratic precipitates at the back of cornea, slight faintness of low fine vitreous stage and disturbing. Then in case of established stage, typical clinical feature of acute plastic iridocyclitis are present. Then coming to treatment of sympathetic ophthalmitis, include prophylactic treatment. First, early excision of the injured eye should be done if there is no hope of useful vision. When there are chances of preserving useful vision, following methods may be used. Excision of the incarcerated tissue should be done and repair of the eye should be undertaken with microsurgical techniques. Next, application of topical and systemic corticosteroids and antibiotics along with topical ibuprofen is the immediate expectant treatment. So, corticosteroids and topical atropine are applied as immediately as possible. Then, if the expectant agent is round-level control, the uveitis immediate excision of the eye should be undertaken. And in case of conservative treatment, it is similar to iridocyclates and includes the application of steroids through all routes, intravenous, ACTH, and local application of atropine. In severe cases, immunosuppressant drugs should be started at the earliest. Then, if inflammation has already occurred in the sympathizing eye and the exciting eye has no useful vision, it should be excised immediately. Now, about prognosis, new microsurgical techniques and steroid therapy may have improved the prognosis. Prognosis, however, is bad in advanced condition of the disease. Then coming to next kind of injuries, that are chemical injuries. As we have discussed earlier, these are alkali injuries, acidic injuries, and tear gas injuries. So chemical injury may vary from mild to severe so as to cause complete loss of vision. Domestic accidents occur with cosmetics, solvents, detergents, solvents, adhesives, cleaners, or ammonia. Farmers may be affected by fertilizers, insecticides, toxins of animal and vegetable origin. Chemical laboratory accidents and warfare injuries are other types. Self-inflicting injuries and deliberate chemical attacks are also seen. So coming first to alkali ones, which are most dangerous among chemical injuries. Alkalis such as lime, caustic soda, caustic potash, liquid ammonia, mortar causes serious ocular burns. Their mode of action: first, dissociation of alkali occur, and this saponifies fatty acids of the cell membrane, and the structure of the cell membrane are destroyed. So then undergo chemical reaction. Alkalis cause total necrosis as they are hygroscopic in nature and extract water from the cells. They combine with lipids of cells to form soluble compounds. The softening and gelatinization takes place. These effects are responsible for deep penetration of alkalis into tissues. These factors contribute to widespread of alkali burns. The action of alkali are difficult to circumscribe and their action continues for some day. So the saponification activity, hygroscopic nature, and combination to form soluble compounds, softening and gelatinization are the causes which cause greatest damage to the eye. Its clinical features include and can be divided into three stages: stage of acute ischemic necrosis, stage of reparation, stage of complications. First, coming to stage of acute ischemic necrosis, following signs will be seen in the stage. That is conjunctiva. In case of conjunctiva, congestion, marked edema, copious mucosal discharge and necrosis. Second, cornea, widespread sloughing of the corneal epithelium, edema and development of opacity of the stoma. Third, iris, violent inflammation, and in severe cases, iris and ciliary body are replaced by granulation tissue. Second stage, that is stage of evaporation. In this stage, regeneration of conjunctiva and corneal epithelium occurs. Corneal vascular reaction takes place and inflammation of the iris subsides. In case of complications simply from corneal ulceration, secondary glaucoma, complicated cataract may occur. Then coming to second kind of chemical injury, that is acid ones. These are less serious than alkali ones. Acids such as sulfuric acid, nitric acid, acetic acid, hydrochloric acid, and sulfurous acid, that is also known by the name of refrigerant, cause maximal damage to the ocular tissue within first few hours. However, they have limited spread. Their mode of action: instant coagulation of all the proteins occurs with strong acids, and they act as barriers, and deeper penetration of the acids is prevented. It is done into sharp demarcation of the lesion. So these leads to instant coagulation of the proteins. So the deeper penetration is prevented. So damage is less than alkali injuries. Then coming to clinical picture, in case of conjunctiva, immediate necrosis takes place, followed by necrosis, simply from developing to fibrosis. In case of cornea, it undergoes necrosis and sloughs out. The extent of damage depends upon the concentration of acid and the duration of its contact. In severe cases, sloughing of whole of the cornea takes place, followed by staphyloma formation. Then grading of chemical wounds. Grading of chemical wounds is done depending upon the severity of the damage caused to the conjunctiva and cornea. In case of grade 1, no limbal ischemia and clear cornea, then prognosis is very good. In case of grade 2, limbal ischemia less than 1/3, that is 120 degree, cornea is hazy but iris details are visible, prognosis is good. And in case of grade 3, limbal ischemia ranging from 1/3 to half, that is 120 degree to 180 degree. Total loss of corneal epithelium and iris details are not visible due to stromal age, and in case prognosis is guarded. In case of grade 4, more than half, that is 180 degree of limbal ischemia, cornea is opaque and prognosis poor. This can be seen in this table, grading of chemical ones. So grade 1 to 3, 4, we have already discussed the prognosis and the structures involved and the damage done to them. So this grading can also be learned from this table, which we have discussed just a slide before. And treatment of chemical burns. The management of chemical burns include both medical and surgical measures. First, coming to medical measures. First is thorough wash. Thorough wash of dye with clean water and saline should be done immediately. Chemical neutralization. When the nature of the offending agent is known, chemical neutralization should be done. Alkaline worms should be neutralized with weak acidic solutions such as boric acid. Acid worms should be neutralized with weak alkaline solution such as sodium bicarbonate. So chemical neutralization is done when the positive chemical is known. So So here either weak alkali or acidic solutions are used according to the injury uh, caused by the chemical. If the injury caused by alkali, then weak acid can be used, and if the injury is caused by acid, then weak alkali solution can be used for neutralization. Then maintenance of favorable conditions, which include frequent application of topical atropine, corticosteroids, and antibiotics should be done for rapid and uncomplicated healing. And prevention of symphylaxis, it can be done by stripping a glass rod in the phonics twice a day or using a glass shower. So, as you already know, symphylaxis is adhesion between the margins of upper and lower eyelid or eyeball and eyelashes. And surgical treatment include mechanical removal of contaminant any particles left behind, especially in case of line should be removed carefully with a swab stick. And then removal of contaminated necrotic tissue, excision of the necrosed conjunctiva, contaminated and necrosed corneal epithelium should be removed with a swab stick. Then coming to treatment of complication, secondary glaucoma should be treated with anti-glaucoma drugs. Treatment of corneal opacity should be done with keratoplasty procedure. Then simply found. If mild, may be treated by mobilizing the surrounding conjunctiva. In severe cases, conjunctival or buccal mucosal graft is required. So adhesions between the eyelids and eyeball can be cured by mobilizing or in severe cases by graft. Then traumatherapy should be performed to protect the ocular tissue epithelium. That is switching of the eyelids for protection of the eyeball and cornea. Next is autologous conjunctival epithelium or stem cell transplantation from the healthy contralateral eye to restore the corneal epithelium is done. Then next type of injuries, next kind of injuries are thermal injuries. The etiological factors of thermal injuries include hot ashes, gunpowder, melt metal, fire or hot fluids. Eyelids are mainly affected in these injuries. Injury to the conjunctiva and cornea may occur in severe cases. And its treatment include particles lying superficially in the conjunctiva and cornea should be removed with cotton swab stick under local anesthesia. Cornea should be treated with antibiotics, steroids, and atropine. Application of cycloplastics also prevent iridocyclitis. Then coming to electrical injuries, the passage of strong electric current from the ocular area may cause lesions of the flying structures, that is conjunctiva. Congestion of the conjunctiva may occur in a case of cornea. Punctate and diffuse interstitial opacity may occur. Inflammation of the iris and ciliary body. In case of lens, development of electric cataract after 2 to 4 hours of injury. Then in case of retina, multiple hemorrhages. In case of optic nerve, neuritis of the optic nerve may occur. Then coming to radiational injuries. In this ultraviolet radiation, that is direct or reflected sunlight from snow, and exposure to an arc welding may cause ocular discomfort and pain after few hours of such exposure. Superficial corneal ulcer may present due to injury to the epithelium, and its management includes use of protective glasses and pad and bandage application of installation of atropine and antibiotic ointment. Then in case of infrared radiation, these rays are absorbed by ocular pigment epithelium as a result of thermal burns. When the resultant heat is transmitted to the lens, it becomes cataractus, known by the name of glass blowers into cataract. Solar eclipse seen with naked eye causes solar retinopathy. So solar burn should not be seen with naked eyes, causing focal. Otherwise, they cause over macular burn, which is known by the name of eclipse burn or blindness. Then ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation causes ocular injury following radiotherapy to tumors in vicinity of the eye or pharynx. The common lesions include radiation dermatitis of the eyelids, radiation keratoconjunctivitis, radiation cataract, and radiation retinopathy. Its management includes use of bandage contact lens, frequent installation of tear drops, and plastography are helpful. Radiation cataract is managed by surgery, and radiation keratopathy requires laser photocoagulation. Then coming to blast injuries, these are common with explosives, firecrackers or bombs, landmine, rocket propelled grenades, and improvised explosive devices. Blast injuries may be accidental due to gas cylinder burst, car tire burst, etc. The clinical features include blast injuries may cause facial burn or injuries, edema, corneoscleral lesions, cataract, retinal detachment, or rupture of the globe. Treatment: cleansing and scraping the wound initially. Keratoplasty is performed if cornea is involved. Cataract should be treated on lines of traumatic cataract. Retinal detachment should be treated surgically. So thank you for listening to the lecture. I hope you have understood the lecture. So in this lecture we have studied type of injuries, extraocular foreign bodies, intraocular foreign bodies, retained intraocular foreign bodies, foreign body with penetrating injuries for intraocular foreign bodies, with perforating injuries, then chemical injuries, thermal injuries, and radiation injuries, ionizing injuries, electrical injuries, etc. And also the management. I hope you have understood the lecture. Though this topic is a bit lengthy, but thorough study of this lecture should be done. It is an emergency condition which can occur in any stage or any case, even during festivals, during working, during accidents, during any exposure to sun, light or electricity or therm or to temperature, then even to any chemical. So that's why I have taken this lecture in detail. I hope you have understood the lecture. So thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. We will take the next lecture.